Welcome to Where Are They Now? We reach into the archives of Lenape, Shawnee, Cherokee, and Seneca High Schools and invite selected alumni to share memories and fill us in on their career paths after commencement. Since Lenape's first graduating class in 1961, Shawnee's in 1972, Cherokee's in 1978, and Seneca's in 2005, over 58,000 individuals have received diplomas from these four schools. Here now is your host, John Donaldson.
Welcome to Where Are They Now? Our guest today is an alum from Shawnee High School's class of 1995, Greg Casterioto. Greg is currently Director of Baseball Communications for the Philadelphia Phillies, and he currently resides in Tabernacle. Welcome to the program, Greg.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me here. Very excited to be here.
Greg and I kind of go back a ways. Greg was involved in TV programs while he was here at Shawnee High School, and really happy with the success you have now.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a huge deja vu walking into Lenape today. It was pretty cool, and then walking into the studio was even bigger. Just wow. Yeah. It's been about 15, 16 years since I've been here, so it's pretty cool. I'm glad you guys contacted me. I'm very happy to be here today.
I spent a lot of time here working in both Shawnee's TV department and with LDTV, and coming back into the doors probably brought back some memories for you.
It did. It really did, yeah. I mean, working with you and Steve Kwasnick and Cheryl Haynes and all the great people that were here back in the day, it did bring back a lot of memories, and I think that was really early on in
it really was, yeah.
History.
LDTV about 1992 was up and running, and back then you were probably freshman.
I was just
getting here, and we were just a bulletin board for a while, just just that. And
if there were school closings, that's why we went there.
Exactly right. There was no real web page for school closings. You went to the station to go get the school closings.
Yes,
so that
before the internet.
Most famous programming back then. You did host a lot of shows with us and at Shawnee. I think Vocations Avocations, which we no longer do. You also went out to Bastow with us for a program called
I did.
Out and About.
Yeah, I did. And you know, it was funny. Like I was saying early on, I still have some of them at home, and I popped one in the other day, and the style of the mid-'90s and the haircuts and everything, wow.
It'll come back again.
Yeah, but I'm not going to
Maybe it already has, and you missed it.
It may have, yeah, absolutely.
What did you also hosted shows at Shawnee? You also did a lot of sports there?
Yeah, we did, I did one football game, which was a disaster, because I'm not a football fan. Right. So they were like telling me in my earpiece what to say. And so that was an experience. I did a lot of stuff with Mr. Ritter, who used to be the teacher over the media tech teacher over at Shawnee, and we just had a good time. And nobody really knew exactly, TV wasn't as big as it is today. I mean, even though we're going back to the late '90s, I mean, the technology wasn't there yet. Obviously, there was no HD and there was no DVDs, and it just wasn't what it was. We had a lot of fun back then.
Kind of making it up as we went along.
We did. We did make it up as we went along. There was a few of us at Shawnee who were really, really into it, and we just had a good time doing it. And TV production was it's been a love of mine for a long time. And whereas I don't work in TV production, but I do assist at producing the Phillies games on a nightly basis, not directly, but kind of indirectly, setting up player interviews and stuff like that.
So you still have your hands in it?
A little bit, yeah.
Right.
A little bit, yeah.
Which is kind of nice.
Yeah, it is. But it was a lot of fun back then.
So let's go back. We're already talking about what you've been doing here at LDTV and Shawnee when you were in high school. Mm-hmm. You had mentioned a lot of teachers, some really good teachers that were in Shawnee while you were there. But there was one that really stood out to you, Tony Costello.
Oh God!
So talk to me about him and what impact he had on you and why he's so special.
Well, anybody who had Tony Costello back then, just hearing his name, they already know why he would be one of my favorite teachers. Mr. Costello, he made you want to come to class, and I can say that about other teachers that I had too, but not like he did. Teaching was a passion of his, and I'm sure it still is to this day. I still keep in touch with him a little bit, but you never knew what to expect when you walked in his classroom. And when you left, two things. You learned something, and you had fun. And that I cannot say for a lot of teachers that I've had over the years. Whereas I've loved all my teachers, but he really stood out as someone who really made it fun for the students and taught us at the same time. I can distinctly remember certain lessons he taught us. And I think that's probably the biggest compliment you can give a teacher. Is to say that
20 years later and you still remember some of the lessons, that is really a compliment.
It was an accomplishment on his part, and I never heard a student complain about him in 4 years at Shawnee High School. So yeah, he's just a super guy.
Yeah, I'm
Very
sure that
nice.
he would love to hear that. That's
Big
really,
time super guy.
That's great. We always like to go back and look at the yearbooks of the guests we have on
Oh,
the show,
God.
and I like to look at the quotes they had in there. And your quote in yours was, "Be crowned the first king of the world with Sue as my queen."
Oh, God.
Or broadcast pro wrestling. So you want to talk to us about?
Well, yeah, I guess I had a little bit of an ego back then. Yeah, no, Sue was my high school crush, one of them at least. But that was mainly as we were also friends, so that was mainly as a joke for her. But yeah, I was big time into pro wrestling back then. It's been a hobby of mine, and it's never subsided. And I think that's one thing that if you ask any of my friends from Shawnee, if they remember one thing about me, it was probably that, having parties over my house when big shows used to be on, and just having everybody over, and all of a sudden a wrestling match would break out in my living room with like 3 or 4 of us. Probably broke a lot of my mom's furniture, but you know, we had fun.
Any other special memories from high school that you want to reminisce about?
Running for president, I ran for student class president going into my senior year, and oddly enough, and I really don't know exactly all the details, a lot of controversy surrounded it, and I do remember one thing I did was I hung up a huge, I found an old white bed sheet in my house. It was huge, it was enormous,
Right.
and my buddies and I, we took spray paint, black spray paint, and we sprayed "Vote for Casterioto, ... or else."
Right.
And what we did was we put it up in between 2 trees at Shawnee, so when every single bus came in that day on voting day, they saw it, and
Right.
it was clear as day. You couldn't miss it, even early in the morning. Well, 2 things. Number 1, I don't think Shawnee was too happy that I did that.
Right.
And number 2, I come to find out that the bed sheets were my mother's old bed sheets that her family had brought over from Germany. So they were trashed after that.
Ouch.
So yeah,
Ouch.
so I learned my lesson.
I can only imagine you probably got this idea being a Phillies fan, looking at the vet when they used to hang up the bed sheets with signs. So you're probably,
Absolutely.
yeah, it looks like a good idea. I'll run for
Greatest
class
fans in the
president.
world.
Yeah.
There. So yeah, that's probably where
Probably,
the inspiration
somewhere
came from.
in the back of your mind. So you graduate in '95.
Yep.
And you know, I remember working with you. You were always a huge Phillies fan. So I think even then you knew that you wanted to be a part of that organization.
I knew I wanted to work in show business. I didn't know how, and the Phillies was definitely part of that. I had thoughts of going out to Los Angeles. I wanted to kind of write. I didn't know if I wanted to be in front of the camera, behind the camera. But over time, the way things played out, I was able to meet some people in the Phillies organization and wind up there. But prior to going there, I didn't know how things were going to work out. And in college, I really thought I might wind up living in Hollywood doing stuff there. I knew I couldn't be a banker or sell insurance. I couldn't do stuff like that. My brain doesn't work that way.
Right.
I have to be creative and to be working on stuff. So I just wanted to be in show business in some capacity, or in sports or entertainment. So.
Okay. So you went to BCC for 2 years.
I did.
And got your associate's degree there, and then you moved on to Rowan. Talk about your experience at Rowan.
Rowan was a lot of fun. Yeah, I was only there for 2 years, but it was 2 very memorable years. I lived on campus, so that was a lot of fun. I started working at not working, but I started doing stuff at their TV studio as well. Once I left here, I kind of transitioned to going over there and did some stuff on camera, kind of like what you're doing now, kind of interviewing people, some of the stuff I did here. And over time, I just thought that, you know what, I don't know that this is for me, talking on camera, you know.
Right.
So Rowan was a good experience in that it really molded me and helped me decide exactly what I wanted to do and what I was really good at and what I wasn't good at.
So while you're there, before you graduate, you actually start interning with Comcast Sportsnet?
I did. Yeah, it was actually really early on in Comcast's existence. Comcast out of Philadelphia. And you know, if I'm being honest, I don't really know other sports other than baseball. And the funny thing about me working at Comcast was I started in September and I ended in like April. So I was there when baseball was not going on, while every other sport was going on. And I don't know that I faked my way through it. I think they kind of understood that I really didn't know a lot about other sports. But they kept me on for whatever reason. Maybe it's because I was willing to do whatever they asked me to do. And that was a great experience. And that was the big springboard that transitioned me into going into interning for the Philadelphia Phillies.
So did you have a contact there that helped you get there, or how did you end up with it? Because you ended up with an internship with the Phillies.
Kind of, yeah. It actually was from a Rowan professor, Larry Litwin, who's the PR professor over at Rowan University, and he was an adjunct back then. And he got me hooked up with somebody in the PR department there who got me an internship. But I think the Comcast Sportsnet I think being at Comcast really greased the wheels for them saying, well, this kid's already basically in sports, so you know it would be an easy transition. And they were just hiring me as an intern. It wasn't a full-time position, so there was no risk on their
Now,
part.
correct me if I'm wrong. I actually went to Rowan. It was Glassboro at the time when I went
Right.
there. I had Larry as a teacher.
You're older than me.
I am older than you, yeah, by a few years. Not going to talk about that though. But I had Larry as a teacher, and I think he has ties to Med. He had ties to Medford. Didn't he own a sports paradise shop or
Yeah,
have
he
something
did.
to
Yeah,
that in
Hello
Medford?
Sports Fans.
Hello
Yeah.
Sports Fans.
Yeah,
That's what it
yes,
was.
he
Okay.
did. Yeah, he did. I didn't know that at the time
Okay.
when I had him as a teacher, but I just was really aggressive with him and just stayed on him every day and said, "Do you know anybody at the Phillies? Do you know anybody at the Phillies? That's really where I want to be." And I think a lot of kids do that with him because he worked in the Philadelphia sports media for a while, so he knows people at each one of the sports. But he finally helped me out and helped me get in there and gave me a person to contact there, and you know the rest is kind of history.
He's probably just like, get this kid away from me.
He probably was.
Yeah, no, persistent as you were.
I think a lot of people said that over the years. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me in the least.
In a good way. So you end up in the ticket department selling tickets for the Phillies?
That's kind of where almost everybody starts out there,
Okay.
especially I'm going back 15, 16 years. So especially back then, there's a place called the Phone Center where they put college kids on the phones, and you're selling individual tickets. You're not selling season ticket sets.
Okay.
That's the big sales office. You're selling individual tickets, and you're taking phone calls and dispersing them throughout the building. It's kind of like the hub, and everybody starts out there, and it's a great place to start because it really helps you appreciate what goes on at the organization, and you get a chance to dabble in all the different departments, rather than just getting hired to start in one department and only knowing that department. So they kind of farm you out every once in a while and send you, well, here, marketing needs help this day, accounting needs help this day, PR needs help this day. So it was a tremendous experience, and I made friendships that I still have to this day.
And back then, I can imagine the phones probably weren't ringing off the hook for
They were not ringing off the hook, and usually if they did ring, it was a complaint.
Okay.
So it wasn't great back then, but there were still diehard loyal fans that still wanted to come to the games. So
Right.
that was nice.
So from there, you move on to intern for the Phillies PR department. How
I
did that
did.
transition come about?
Well, what happened was it was really by pure luck, which some of my stuff that's happened over the years have been.
you know, I hear this a lot with the guests we have on. I don't think it's luck. We had a guest on that we spoke to, and they're always saying I was in the right place at the right time. I really think, and knowing you, I don't think it had anything to do with luck.
I appreciate that, but what happened was, when you're in the phone center at the Phillies, what happens is at the end of when the season's over, it's time to go. And except for the PR internship, that used to go through Halloween. That used to go through a month after the season. The girl who was interning up there had a job and left, and so they had a month where they had to fill. And I had asked about the PR department, so they sent me up there. They said, just fill in for a month. I go up there, fill in for a month, leave on Halloween, and then 2 days later get a call back saying we want you to resume the internship and an intern for us for all of next season, which was the 2000 season. So it kind of was luck, but I guess they wouldn't have called me back if they didn't like me. So, but her not being there, that was lucky on my part. And then I interned for the 2000 season, and at the end of that, we had some restructuring in the department, and again, that's luck on but
Right.
I guess the skill is what got me hired there, even though I was not the first choice.
So you're interning for a full year. This internship ends up being a full year.
Yeah.
You're not in college anymore.
No, I'm out of college.
How are you supporting yourself at this time?
I'm living at home.
You're living at home.
Mom and Dad. That's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
So I mean, just
commuting
out-
from Tabernacle
Right.
to Philadelphia every day. Yeah.
Anybody that's out there thinking, I want to take this path that Greg took, it wasn't an easy one. I mean, you weren't out there
No.
living lavishly. You didn't
No,
have
no,
you
no.
know, a lot of money in
No.
your pocket probably, but you were.
Some of the kids had roommates and lived downtown and were living up the life in Philadelphia. I couldn't do that. No, I was living at home, still having fun every once in a while, but yeah.
Did you have a part-time job?
No,
Right,
that
so
was
this
my
is-
part-time
that's
job.
what you were
Yeah,
doing,
that's
right.
what I was doing. They did pay me, so that's good. I mean, the internships,
all right, so
the
it wasn't an
internships are paid.
unpaid,
I mean,
okay.
it's not.
Oh yeah, I
you know,
can
I mean,
imagine.
it
It's
is.
not-
It is what it is.
Right.
Understandably so.
Right.
But I was commuting every day, and just the experience I was gaining, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if I was going to stay there forever, but the experience I was gaining was invaluable. I mean, I was working at a sports franchise, and it doesn't matter that we lost 97 games that year. What I was taking from that internship was huge. The people I was around, the experience I was getting, I couldn't have asked for anything else. It was tremendous.
So in the bio you sent us, you gave us some roundabout dates, but very specific one was November 1st for you. That, I mean, why was November 1st so specific?
Well, of 2000 was because that was the day they hired me full time at the Phillies. It was up up to 2 weeks from now when I get married. It was the greatest day of my life. Because I arrived and I couldn't believe it. All my hard work had paid off. I'm not going to say that I was doing it. My nose was to the grindstone for years and years and years. It wasn't. But I felt like I had a goal in mind, and I accomplished that goal. And it was really the only goal I had ever accomplished in my life. I kind of knew what I wanted to do, and I didn't know if it was going to work out, but it did. And again, it was by luck because they actually hired someone else to take the position. And in the meantime, I had taken a position somewhere else for Fleer baseball cards. I don't know if you remember the old trading card set of Fleer. And I'll never forget the title. It was Manager of Celebrity Relations. I was really excited to start with that.
Sounds like a good title.
It was like, this is very cool. And what happened was the day before I was leaving the Phillies, the guy quit who got hired in front of me. And they offered me the job, and I said, absolutely. And I called Fleer, and I said, sorry to say it, but I won't be there on Monday.
Wow.
They weren't too happy, but it worked out great for me. I work for a place that I consider the greatest organization in the world. The way they treat people is second to none. I work for unbelievable people, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
From November 1st, 2000, you end up with you end up going to Media Relations Assistant. What was that job and what that entail?
Basically, all the titles changed, but the job always remained the same.
Okay.
From day one, I started as I'm a liaison between the media and the players, the manager, the coaching staff, front office personnel, the general manager, the president, whomever the media needs to speak to. There's a few of us that do it, and I'm one of the people that does it. And it's very rewarding. It's a lot of fun. I get to travel with the team throughout the year, in the playoffs also. I meet a lot of great people. I've seen most of this country just by traveling with the Phillies. So it's been really, really rewarding.
When did you get the official title of Director of Communications for the Phillies?
Director of Baseball Communications,
Yes.
I got that, I want to say 5 years ago. I'm not totally sure.
Okay, so
when
you've
it
had
happened.
that title for a while then.
Yeah, it's been a little bit now. Yeah, maybe 4 years now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talk about the daily ins and outs of the job. I mean, we were talking before the show, your predecessor,
Larry Shank.
said he wouldn't want your job nowadays.
Well, it's tough. Yeah, I mean, Larry did it for 45 years, and he's one of the all-time greatest at what we do for a living. We named a press box at Citizens Bank Park after him when he retired. He's been a tremendous mentor over the years, as a lot of people have been for me. But Larry's point is just that in this day and age with social media, with Facebook, with Twitter, with the instantaneous communication that people have with everybody, that fans have with celebrities, that players have with the media, it's truly a minute-to-minute job, second-to-second job. I mean, things can change like that when just with one press of your thumb. We've seen things happen over the years. I'm not just talking about the Phillies. I'm talking about with any sport, with any entertainment outlet. That there's a lot of stuff. Look at TMZ. I mean, it's a much different world. Technology is changing so fast on a year-to-year basis that it's really hard for people to keep up with it. It really is. I mean, it's tough. I resisted Twitter for a long time. I was hoping it was a passing fad, and I'm sure maybe I thought that about the internet 20 years ago too. But but I had to succumb to it, and it can be a situation that can be detrimental to people, or it can be a great way to help yourself and to brand yourself. So it really has its pluses and minuses. Twitter, Facebook, all that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, since you've had this title for the past 5 years, I mean, how do you prepare yourself? Because obviously, when you went to college and your training for this didn't prepare you for that.
No.
How does that? How do you prepare?
You
for
have
that?
to adapt.
Yeah.
You have to adapt to different situations, and you have to have a real feel for the business and a feel for what's going on. And most of all, you have to be able to communicate with people. We have to have a clear line of communication with our players, with our manager, with our coaches, so that when we're giving them advice, when we're dispensing the advice to them, that they're trusting into what we're saying. Jimmy Rollins and Ryan Howard, they really use Twitter for good. They really do. I mean, they promote their charities on there. Shane Victorino, These guys, they really do a good job with their Twitter accounts and with their Facebook pages. Not all players are into it, but I'm fortunate enough.
Sometimes that's for the better.
Sometimes for the better, absolutely. Right. But fortunately, the players that we've had over the years have been smart. They get it, they understand, and they use it for all the right reasons.
Do the Phillies send you for any training?
Well, we do train the players. We have media training courses.
But does anybody train you on any? I mean, did you go for any job development, any professional development?
No, I never did that. No, I never did that. It's been offered in the past, but we have such a chaotic schedule throughout the year that it's hard to stop things for a period of time and to go back to a class because we're constantly on the move. 162 game schedule.
Right.
That doesn't count the 30 games for spring training because we're in Clearwater for 7 weeks every year. And if we're lucky enough to make the postseason, like we had for 5 years in a row, then that's another month onto the schedule. So you're looking at conceivably 9 out of 12 months that you're on the go. You know, so it's
not really time to squeeze that in.
Yeah, but it's been offered, you know, but it's just not. It's up till now, it hasn't been something that we've had a lot of time for.
So you give the players some training on social media and how to deal with some of these things.
We do with our minor leaguers and primarily with our minor leaguers, sometimes with our major leaguers. But when this started, we figured, you know, we said we have to find a way to nip this in the bud, and you know, you've got a major league team where maybe 8 of 25 players are on it because they're all, some of those guys are in their mid-30s, they have kids, maybe they don't have time for something like that. But your minor leaguers, well, they're all on it. You know, they're young guys, they're in their early 20s and they're having fun, so they're on it. But we are very lucky. We have a great system in place. We have great people teaching them, and so far, knock on wood, you know, things have been all right.
So you've been a lifelong fan.
Yeah.
You know, you were a fan of the early teams. One of your favorite teams was the 1993 team. You had Darren Doughton, you had John Kruk, you had Kurt Schilling. But now you're in the locker room with these guys every day.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just regular guys to you, I assume.
Well, they are. Well, yeah, the hero worship kind of ends.
Yeah.
Because I didn't grow up watching a lot of these guys. You know, I've been in the big leagues longer than most of them have, at 36 now. You know, so that it's a lot different on the other side. But I will tell you, you know, meeting Mike Schmidt for the first time was really cool, and you know, texting him once in a while and going out to dinner with him in spring training, it's kind of surreal to this day. That's pretty cool. Darren Doughton, who's just one of my all-time favorite people and players, you know, that's my relationship with him I'm just blown away by it, you know. So,
very cool. John
Kruk, great guy, and John Kruk works in the media.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, probably the most surreal experience for me was being by Larry Bowa's side for 4 years when he was manager, because he had just started as a manager when I became a full-time employee.
Okay.
And I was still a fan back then, and and I was a young kid still too, and that I had to.
How you separate? Right.
Yeah, they didn't hire nobody to come in and manage the club. Right. They hired someone who I consider to be probably the most popular sports figure in the history of Philadelphia sports. Wow. Yeah. So that was kind of cool.
So you get past that, you can handle anything then.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
So you must have a lot of stories. We did some research and we're looking around and saw in 2010 they pulled a little prank on you.
They did.
Spring training.
They did, yeah.
Why don't you fill us in on how it got to that, where it started at?
Well, how it started was South Jersey Magazine wanted to do you know, Bachelors of South Jersey, and they contacted our department and asked for some, you know, if we had any players. Well, we don't. We're a veteran type club, and at the time, our guys were not. They were either in a committed marriage or they were in a committed relationship. Right. One or the other. So, South Jersey Magazine comes to find out that, well, the guy they're dealing with is a bachelor. So that was me. So they asked me if I wanted to be on it, and I said no at first. They asked me again, and I said no, and I got kind of convinced into doing it. And I figured, I lived in South Jersey my whole life, and I didn't know much about the magazine, so I'm figuring what bad could come out of it. And so I did a photo shoot. Nobody knew I was doing it, and I didn't even know if I'd ever see the magazine. What I didn't know was that South Jersey Magazine got delivered to Charlie Manuel's home. So from there, it ballooned, and what became of it was every morning in spring training, you know, we get there about 7 o'clock in the morning. I usually walk in the clubhouse about 7:45. All the guys are usually sitting around having their breakfast and their coffee and everything. And I walked in, and everything was fine, and everything was normal. And I walked out. And maybe like 2 minutes later, I walked back in, and everybody looked different. But nobody was paying attention to me.
Right.
And I'm looking around, and I did a double take, and I saw Jason Worth and Chase Utley. They were kind of facing me, and they had shirts on with my face on them. And I couldn't believe what I was looking at. And I
You
dropped
knew something was up then.
I knew something was up, and everybody started laughing, and I was like, oh, it's funny. They made shirts of the picture that I had taken from South Jersey Magazine. And then I had no idea what was to come next. There were cameras.
Just when you think that's it.
Yeah, just when I thought that was it, the cameras were on, and they led me outside to the field, the playing field, and there it was in the left field corner, larger than life, huge. That same picture of me with a quote that they pulled from the article, and everybody had a lot of fun with that. There's usually a big prank played every spring, and I got it that spring. I mean, I think one year they told Kyle Kendrick he was getting traded to Japan. So there's always a big prank pulled every year. Somebody's on the receiving end, and it was my turn. So I had a lot of fun, and it's something I'll never forget. And I think I took it okay, but some of it I don't remember. Maybe some of the words I dropped.
The coolest thing for me watching the video from an outsider's point of view is that you're one of the guys. You're part of this family, and it must be that whole organization. It seems like it has that feel. Like it's just not, oh, we're the players, and you guys do this job. You had a real little.
Well, that starts at the top.
Yeah.
With Dave Montgomery.
Yeah.
That starts with our president. I said earlier, it's a great organization to work for, and 90% of that reason is because we work for him. It starts at the top. He cares more about his employees than I can imagine any CEO. The first day you start there as an intern, he asks you to not call him Mr. Montgomery. You call him David. He just has great respect for people, and he gets that back from his employees. He's got very dedicated and loyal people around him. And what happens is when it trickles down to the players, when you keep the same players for a period of time, and we got very lucky. I don't want to say lucky. We have a great scouting staff. And when you're drafting guys like Chase Utley, Jimmy Rollins, Cole Hamels, Ryan Howard, these are guys you keep for a very long time. Any fan can see the obvious talent in these guys. And then when you bring in guys like a Brad Lidge, a Jamie Moyer, a Chris Coast, you're bringing in. Maybe you didn't draft these people, but you're bringing in more great people.
Right.
And that was Pat Gillick right there. Pat, our former general manager, who's now a senior advisor for the team, he was one of the greatest people I ever worked around. He could look at somebody and size them up personality-wise, and Pat's the guy that brought in Jason Worth. Pat's the guy that brought in Jamie Moyer. Chris Coast. He brought these guys into the Phillies, and that's where the family atmosphere really starts to to get going down there, because we're with each other all year long. It's not 9 to 5.
Right.
We see each other more than we see our families. We're traveling with each other. We're on the road with each other. We're in spring training with each other. We're going out to dinner with each other. And you're trying to, there is a separation. There is a little bit of a separation, but at the end of the day, we're around each other so much that it's hard to not enjoy each other's company.
So I could sit here and talk baseball and Phillies with you all day long,
Right.
If we could. But I just want to talk about one more thing with you as it relates to the Phillies. You were probably, 3 when they won in 1980? Somewhere around that age?
3 or 4, yeah.
Really,
yeah.
Probably too young to really appreciate it.
I have
remember.
no recollection of it.
So you're a lifelong fan.
Mm-hmm.
They never really get close in '93. You're working there. Tell us about 2008. I mean, like you said, it had to be surreal for you. I mean, just
it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool. Well, we had so many near misses early in that. I mean, we didn't just get good in 2008. We got good in 2001.
Yeah.
Finished 2 games out in 2001. Took a little bit of a step back in 2002. Finished 2 games out in 2003. A few games out in 2004. We were getting closer and closer and closer. There was a plan in place. You got to give credit to Ed Wade. I mean, he did a phenomenal job at molding that team early in the decade. It's unfortunate that he wasn't there to see it through to completion, but he laid the groundwork for that team. So we get to 2007, and we fight, and then I'll never forget the last day of 2007 when we took the field. We had to win that day. Yeah. And we took the field, and I think the Mets were down 6-0 by the time we started our game at 1:30. And then what happens? Me being the stat guy, we're looking forward to Jimmy Rollins getting 20 triples, 20 homers, 20 doubles, and 20 steals, you know,
Right.
all across the board. Well, he's at 19 triples.
Right.
And what does he do? He leads off the game with a triple. And it was just, at that moment, you knew this is such a special day. The sun was shining.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal, just a phenomenal day. So we made the playoffs, obviously, got bounced out by the Rockies. That was really disappointing. But there was something special about that team, and everybody knew it. And we come back in 2008, and it was a dogfight. You know, you look back at 2008, you say, well, what was it, wire to wire? Not even close. It was a dogfight.
Yeah.
Down again to the very last day.
Yeah.
And then you get into the playoffs, and you look at all 3 rounds. And if you look at it on paper, we won 4 games to 2 in each round. Looks like we dominated each round. No way.
They were nail biters.
Oh, everything was a nail biter. You know, except for the one blowout in the World Series when Joe Blanton hit the home run. I think we beat the Rays 10 to 2.
When that happened, you kind of knew something was meant to be.
Yeah. But
I was sitting there watching that game with my wife, and he comes up to bat, and she says, well, we need a home run. And I'm like, honey, it's Joe Blanton.
Joe
I'm like,
Pitchers
they
don't
don't
hit
hit
home
home
runs.
runs.
Right.
And she looks at me, she's like, you don't know what you're talking about after he hits it. I'm like, I'm out. I'm done. I
She knows more than you, clearly.
Exactly, right, I'm done.
It was, you're taking red-eye flights going back and forth. We played the Dodgers in the NLCS, and we beat them, and then we're flying home, and we have a workout that day, and Charlie's mom passed away in the middle of the playoffs. So that was a real big emotional tug for the team because we were feeling for Charlie at the time. But we get to the World Series, and it's in. I was telling you before we went on the air today. I was telling you that, it's hard for us to appreciate it when we're in the moment because there's so much going on. We can't really enjoy it like we want to enjoy it because we have a job to do.
Right.
And that the job comes first. And I think we're a top-notch organization, and I think we get things done. And I think you ask around baseball, they'll tell you we're one of the best organizations behind the scenes in baseball of all 30 clubs. So you win the World Series, and I still remember. I remember where I was. I was in the batting cage in the clubhouse. I didn't want to be in the dugout. I didn't want to jinx anything. I had to change my clothes because I was in a suit prior to that, and I didn't want to get my suit.
You knew it was gonna.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so I'm in jeans and a like a plastic pullover or something.
Right.
And we win, and my first thought is, okay, Charlie Manuel's got to go into the press conference room. Chris Wheeler's going live in the clubhouse. He needs guests. Scott Fransky's going live on the radio. He needs guests. That's my first thought.
Right.
I'm high-fiving.
You want to enjoy
I'm
this,
high-fiving,
but
I'm not looking at anybody.
At
I'm
the
just
same time, you're rolling through what I got to get done.
Yep, and I do remember that night. It's not that much of a blur. I do remember a lot that went down. But it wasn't really until about an hour after everything settled down that, we all sat down together, the front office, and really reflected on it. And like, wow, we're gonna get a ring.
Yeah.
Which
you have.
Which I do have.
You didn't bring with you.
I didn't
bring
bring
it. Trying to be humble about it,
I
but
didn't
you
bring
do
it
have
today.
one.
Yeah. The employees were all given the option of getting rings, and I think I'm sure close to 100% of us did.
Yeah, you don't say no to that. Yeah.
And no. And it was an amazing experience. And then the following year to go back, especially in Ruben's first year as GM, which there were no guarantees that we were going to go back, obviously. It was so special. And then Cliff throws that shutout at Yankee Stadium in Game 1, and you're thinking,
here we go. Yeah,
here we
on
go.
our way, right.
We are doing this
we're
again.
Cruise control. Here we go. Yeah.
But you look back, and my memories are the same as the fans. You think about the Matt Stairs home run. Which prior to that you had to have Victorino's home run, which not a lot of people talk about.
Right.
The way Cole Hamels pitched in every round, and the way he composed himself, but I don't segregate it to that 1 month. Those 5 years of making the playoffs. You talk about Roy's postseason no-hitter.
Sure.
I mean, just one of the greatest memories that I'll ever have.
Right.
I was not on the road for his perfect game. I was watching on TV at home. I wasn't not lucky enough to be in Miami that night. So those of us who weren't there got to relive it, I think, 10 times better with a postseason no-hitter. You think about Cole Hamels' shutout in Cincinnati and just all the great postseason memories we've had. I think the whole region really should look back and look how lucky we are to be watching Phillies baseball.
Yeah.
130 years this franchise has been around, and we're all lucky enough to be watching this stuff go on right now. The greatest manager in Phillies history, the greatest second baseman in Phillies history, the greatest first baseman in Phillies history, the greatest shortstop in Phillies history.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty remarkable to have all that stuff happen. I mean, Roy Halladay, surefire Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
unfortunately, Jim Thome couldn't be a part of the winning tradition. You know, he left before it started and came back afterwards.
On the other end of it,
It didn't really work the way we wanted it to, but just another fantastic human being.
Well, we had talked before, like we have a generation that doesn't know what it was like before then. We had
No, they don't.
teams in the hey, this is a given. They make the playoffs. Well, no, it's not. I'm like, that's not what it used to be like.
Right.
I have a 10-year-old son that thought they play in the playoffs every year. That's how it works. But so yeah, they really. I mean, it was a treat. It really was.
It was. You isolate 1993, and that's one great year out of about a 16-year span.
Right.
But no, I mean, those 5 years, it was a roller coaster ride. Tremendous, and I think we're going to continue it this year.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I really do. We had a little bump in the road last year, but I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, nothing was more painful when I turned off seeing Howard go down in a heap, and I just couldn't watch anymore. I kind of turned it off and just walked away. Like it was just hard to watch all those guys that you saw.
I didn't even know what happened.
Right, you didn't.
I was in the clubhouse,
so you didn't even know.
I didn't even know. I just, we were about to lose. Barring a game-tying home run, we're about to lose the game. And again, I'm thinking to myself, when the game ends, who needs to be? I'm in the clubhouse, and all of a sudden, I see our trainer carrying Ryan Howard up the steps. I didn't even see the footage. I didn't even see, I had not seen it live. But then when I saw it on TV, when I saw the replay, I was like, wow, that's
hard to take. Yeah,
that was hard to take. Yeah, and and they tried.
Yeah,
they battled.
They did absolutely. They did.
Roy Halladay pitched his heart out in that game.
Oh, he did.
And it didn't. It wasn't meant to be.
He had one bad inning, and I think right away gave up like one or so, but then locked it down.
Yep.
First inning run. Yeah, exactly.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah. What are you gonna do? Hey, still got 2008, and like you said, hopefully be on the upswing again.
I think we will be.
Yeah,
I do. I'm excited for this year. I think a lot of our guys are going to bounce back from injury, and I think we're going to surprise some people. And good, let us come from behind.
Yeah.
Let them doubt us.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So before I let you go, I went to a game last year. It was the Hunter Pence game, bobblehead game.
Okay.
Were you a part of that? After he was gone, were you a part of that?
A part of
like that whole PR because they sent out a little card with it. I thought it was kind of it was nice
totally.
to have him. Right. Okay.
Not totally. Most our marketing department is the one that makes the decisions on that kind of stuff. But I totally agree with what they did. I mean,
it was
bobbleheads are first of all, Hunter was very popular while he was here.
He was. Yeah.
People love their bobbleheads. They love their collections, and I think it's a collector's item when you get one of a guy that's not
cool.
even.
And the fact that he wrote a little note back saying he appreciated his time here was just classy of him as well.
Yeah, very very classy individual actually.
Before I let you go, ask every guest: do you have any words or advice for the students in the Lenape District right now? Why they're in school, what they should be looking at and trying to do, and when they get out.
Well, they won't listen to me, but
they will.
I can tell you that, we talked earlier about social media. Talk to people. Don't text all the time. Talk to people face to face. Look them in the eye. Learn how. Don't get caught in that mode where all you're doing is typing and texting, because we can't forget how to have interpersonal communication.
Right.
And I hope it doesn't hurt the generations going forward. But that's a big thing. We live in a great communication age. It's a tremendous time to be living on this planet, but at the same time, we need to understand this technology, and we need to take a step back once in a while and still understand that the basis of human life is interacting face to face with people, is communicating with people. Because I think if you learn that, you'll be okay. If you can talk to people, if you can express yourself and be outgoing, that's to me. In what I do for a living, that's the best thing I can tell people, because I do get concerned, even with my own nieces and nephews, about too much texting going on. So
I think it's great advice, and nothing could be truer. And the success you've had, you said you little FaceTime is what really what it comes down to.
People got to read. Yeah. They have to read the expression on your face. They have to hear the cadence of your voice. How many things are taken the wrong way via text or email?
Yeah, you can't read into a text. You can't read into an email. You don't know tone, inflection, or anything.
Nothing.
Like that.
Nothing.
And
you can't rely on LOL for everything in the world. So So
that's true. Well, Greg, it's been a pleasure. I can't tell you how much
John.
fun it's been having you back and talking with you. Like I said, I could do this all day, but I know you have other things to do. So thanks again for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
We've been speaking with Greg Casterioto, Director of Baseball Communications for the Philadelphia Phillies. Greg currently resides in Tabernacle, New Jersey. Please join us next time for more alumni interviews on Where Are They Now?